And for more on this, we're now joined by anti-apartheid activist Reverend Frank Chikane, and he now joins us via our video link. Reverend, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, the first ever global anti-apartheid conference taking place in South Africa. Let's start off with that. What is your view when it comes to this conference being held in South Africa?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you to those who are watching your program. As I've stated before, we didn't wake up in the morning and just called for a conference like this. We visited Palestine. We were there in May 2022 and interacted with the Palestinians, went to where people stay, those who have lost houses which were bulldozed, those who were threatened to be evicted, those whose families have been killed. We went to the people and we experienced what they experienced, watched and learned about their situation. And it is in that discussion where they said nobody cares for them, the world doesn't care for them. They have no rights. Nobody worries if you are detained there. There is no law that applies in that situation. And so they asked us to help them because South Africa, they said, is the only country that understands them better. Yeah. And we said the best way is not to wait for governments, is to mobilize a similar movement like the anti-apartheid movement we used against apartheid South Africa, where the people of the world are mobilized in all the countries which support the apartheid system, in this case Israel. And when we do that, those countries will be forced to change their position. In this case, the key country is the United States. You can see the student protest and action that has begun. The Jewish communities in the United States who say, not in our name. We're not going to allow this in our name. I met one of the Jewish people from London today who said, not in our name. So we want to mobilize the world to take a stand to end this settler colonial apartheid system, which is given a position of privilege and exceptionalism, which is totally unacceptable. You can't commit genocide and not pay for it or take responsibility for it. So that's what this conference was about, pay request of the Palestinians, and we brought the world here. I mean, we had people from many countries.
And Reverend, what does it mean for a country like ours? I mean, you touch on the fact that we also endured apartheid in this country. And what does it mean for a country like ours to show its support in this conference and showing its firm stance against what is taking place in Palestine?
Yeah, we don't want to beat our own drums, but I mean, people who were here were really appreciative of what South Africa is doing. Both Palestinians themselves and other people from other parts of the country. You would have heard from the former Prime Minister of Turkey talking about South Africa. They appreciate it. They believe South Africa is the only one that actually has taken a stand. But we are pleased that more and more countries now are joining South Africa. I mean, on the International Court of Justice, we've got more and more countries. Egypt today announced that it was going to join South Africa, and Israel has said we are disappointed. So I think the initiative of South Africa, the leadership of South Africa, has helped other countries to also take a stand. So this conference is in addition to the International Court of Justice action. And I must say that this is what South Africa is about. Actually, we are reflecting what South Africans are, stand for justice irrespective of who is affected.
And Reverend, a conference adopted an immediate ceasefire to what is taking place in Palestine. And what does pressure like this then do for, a country like Palestine and the people of Palestine, especially during this time?
There is no other way of dealing with this matter except mobilize the people of the world. You see, you get veto of the United States stopping any form of action. Even now, when Israel said we're going to Rafah, they said we're going to draw the line and we're not going to give you arms. And Israel goes there and you don't see action from the United States. The UN has made up its mind and has spoken, but the United States blocks it. What we need is for the people to apply sanctions, boycotts against Israel, and also make it difficult for the United States to continue applying the veto. And the people of the United States were here at the conference, were represented. They are going back home. We are expecting them to mobilize in the United States to make sure the United States changes. We did that with South Africa on them until they adopted a law that actually applied sanctions against South Africa. It is urgent because people are dying now. Genocide is happening. We can't wait for another day.
And South Africa has taken a decision to go back to the ICJ to ensure that Israel is held accountable for the situation and the crisis in Gaza. And what is your take when it comes to Israel's attitude during this time, especially when you look at the outcomes of the ICJ?
Well, their attitude is that they don't care about the world. You see, the world, especially the Western world, the main countries, have made Israel to think that they are exceptions. Because of the Holocaust and the way in which Europeans treated them, they then present themselves as exceptional and that they can actually commit the same crimes that were committed against them without anybody doing anything. They violate international laws every day, and there's no action. The International Court of Justice makes a ruling. The Security Council doesn't act. I think we need the world to actually expose this bias and attitude of Western countries, which is actually very dishonest, to make sure that they don't treat countries differently. If it is Ukraine, they apply sanctions immediately. They get International Court of Justice to have a warrant for President Putin. If it is Israel committing West atrocities, no action is taken. I think we must end this exceptionalism, which is actually promoted by those who support Israel. We must stop that. And we are committed to mobilizing the world. That's the only way in which we can do it. And I think Israel is beginning to lose their credibility, their cover and legitimacy. And soon the world will turn against them and they will be forced to turn around and make peace.
Reverend, thank you so much for your time and for that insight. That is Reverend Frank Chikane, anti-apartheid activist. They're talking about that first ever anti-apartheid conference which took place in Sandton this past weekend.